Tune in to the Red, White, and Blue Show, where David, Martin, and Nick will blow your mind talking religion, politics, and money too. It's a talk show that's always in prime time. With their unique perspectives and in-depth analysis, they'll keep you informed on the latest news. So join the conversation on the Red, White, and Blue Show with David, Martin, and Nick. Your go-to views.
Okay, so it's the Red, White and Blue Show. Myself, David Poldham, Martin Costello and Nick Smith, each and every single Wednesday, 7 p.m. on Twitter Spaces, talking the latest, the greatest, what's going on, and what's happening this week, guys. What are we talking about?
Oh, go on, Martin.
That's it. Pass the baton. Martin's disappeared, look.
Do you know what? There's so much. Can we... Actually, do you know, as we've invited Charlie Sansom on to be a guest of the regular show, can we talk about CBDC? I know Charlie's been vocal about that recently, and we can start off with that topic if that's possible, David.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, let's take it away. And thanks for joining us as well, Charlie. Really appreciate your time. Nice one. Right, Nick, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, well, what we're doing is then we're going to my subject first, if we can, which is the Liverpool protest,
right?
Which I really want to talk about. For those that don't know about what happened, we see a protest in Kirkby or Knowsley, which is in Liverpool. Now, what we've got here, David, Martin, and Charlie, and listeners, we have fed up, frustrated, concerned residents who are showing they're not happy with not being listened to. They're showing they're not happy about having asylum seekers / illegal immigrants, men of fighting age, housed near schools and housed in their community. They're worried, and they're rightly so to be worried, because if you look at all the videos of the young girls being targeted, harassed, being scared and intimidated on a regular basis, they're worried about the young girls in their community. Now, typically, it's no surprise they were labelled far right, which is a label, as we all know, you don't have to do much or say much to be labelled far right. It's pathetic. So yeah, I mean, and also, they're unhappy with knowing that illegal migrants and asylum seekers are being housed in nice, warm, plushy hotels, whilst the rise of British homeless is massive. So they're every right to be frustrated and fed up, and to air their views, to do what they've done. And so I think we're gonna see and hear more of this, and expect more of this until things are sorted out.
Yeah, totally agree with you there, Nick. I think people have a right to be concerned, and as you said there, typical crap from the left, isn't it? Far right. I mean, Liverpool's probably the most left-leaning city in the UK, and these people have genuine concerns. These people have genuine concerns, and as you stated there about the videos, young girls being sexually harassed, by undocumented illegal economic migrants. Because let's face it, that's what they are. They're not refugees. They're not asylum seekers. There's no war going on in France. That's where they've come from. And they're just here for the free money, the benefits, and to sexually harass and rape our children, because that's what's been going on. I don't care what anyone else says. Don't get me wrong. There was probably a small minority of these people who are genuine, but there is no war going on in France. They're not, be all and end all of it. And to label them far right, I mean, that's just ridiculous. Anything, if you just disagree with them on anything, you're labelled far right, a bigot, a racist, a Nazi. Yeah. It's just words that they throw. There's an old saying: if you throw enough shit, some of it will stick. And the idea behind it is literally so they can just dehumanize you and make you sound don't agree with them, they're far right.
It's always been the case to when you lose an argument to shut it down by calling them racist or sexist or bigot or Little Englander or knuckle dragger. I've heard it all before.
Gammon.
Boring, snoring, gammon, flag shagger. Come on, bring it on. Boring.
Yeah. Martin, what do you reckon? What have you thought of this? Maybe Martin's having a bit of trouble with his mark. Charlie, you there?
Hello, guys. Good evening. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Living the dream.
Was it a dream or a nightmare? Choose your adjective wisely there, my friend.
It's a never-ending dream, put it that way.
It feels as though we are stuck in a cycle where, like you've mentioned, and rightly so, people are angry that people who are undocumented come here illegally are being given better treatment than people that have lived here their whole lives, that may have fallen on hard times, that don't get any of the kind of help that an illegal immigrant might. And one of my best friends, he served in the army, and when he left, he worked in the charity sector, helping people that were injured, typically guys who have lost an arm or a leg or more than that. And I spoke to him about this because I thought he's going to have the inside track on how much help veterans actually get versus what these migrants get. And he told me that it's absolutely atrocious how badly soldiers are treated when they leave the forces, when most, end up homeless. The vast majority will end up with some form of mental health concern, whether it be PTSD or something else. And the problem that we have, I find, is that there is no political will to change this. Because if you've always got a divisive subject on the tip of everyone's tongues, it's very easy to manipulate the electorate to vote one way or the other. So do I think that the Conservative Party want to solve the immigration problem? No, I don't. I think they perpetuate it so they can give us that carrot come election time. And then people run out the door and say, "Oh, vote Tory because they're going to stop the boats coming over." Why is it after 2023, 13 years of the Tories being in total control or partial control, have they not dealt with this sooner? This is not a 2022, 2023 problem. This has been going on for 20, 30 years. This is a Blair problem. This kicked off massively with Blair. So do I think that this is going to get better? No. But do I think that the English, the British are going to stand up more against these kind of things? Yeah, I do. If a town like Liverpool can, or a city like Liverpool, I should say, can behave the way they did, I think anything's possible now, and I think we need that.
Totally agree with you there, Charlie. I think that's what we've lost here as well, is the community spirit. It's big still in Liverpool, isn't it? They still have that community spirit there. In London, it's completely lost. But, we see it in Ireland as well. They were kicking off in Ireland there, similar circumstances. So I think you're bang on the money there. I think we're going to be seeing that a lot. And things are going to get more and more heavy as time goes on, and we're going to see more and more slurs like far right as more and more concerned, parents and family members come out to protect their kids. Yeah. Martin, are you still there?
I think Martin.
He's having a little nap, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he might be able to hold his mic. But no, I agree with what Charlie Sansom has said. It's a well-known fact that many homeless people are ex-armed forces. I think they done a report a couple of years ago where 1 in 3 homeless people are ex-armed forces. So it's a disgrace. We're quick enough to use them and abuse them, and then, when they come back and they're no use, we throw them in a scrap heap. It's unbelievable. Yeah, we've said this before, and you're quite right, Charlie. Me and David and Martin have spoken about this before. The Conservatives have been in power for 12 and a half years. They've not done anything. They're not willing to do anything. Labour will be even worse. So, new parties are needed, definitely.
Yeah, for the sake of time, I think I'll just identify as Martin Costello for the time being. That's all the rage. That's all the rage these days. So I've heard. Although it does cost you your job in Scotland, but that's another topic.
Oh yes.
One thing I will say about immigration itself, and when you talk about it, like you mentioned something about how you get labelled all these things, but 9 times out of 10, most people that criticise immigration are not actually talking about the nationality or the religion or the background itself. They're more arguing for the principle of the British government looking after the British people, who actually is governing us. And when you have allowances given to certain demographics of people that are not given to the majority demographic, that's when you get these kind of these uprisings of splinter groups, such as, for an example, something that comes to my head when I said that was the EDL. You know, if you didn't have the open disregard for the British Armed Forces or even for the British state in general, you wouldn't have groups like that forming. You wouldn't have any of these kind of splinter groups forming. And if you had the treatment of those people that disrespected those armed forces and subsequently, you know, I know Tommy Robinson's gone on a crusade against child grooming gangs, and, you know, that seems to be, you know, aimed primarily at the Muslim Pakistani demographic of the country. If you're a white man, do you get away with being a paedophile? That's the question. It's not a question of race, though. It's a question of principle. Do you, as a white man, get away with it? And when you look at the figures in this country, 90% of all paedophile crime is committed by lone, single white men. Now, if you say that, it's not racist to say it, but if you say that the gangs in the country, the organised gangs in this country that
Oh, hello.
you are called a racist. So there is a complete like disconnect with how we deal with these topics, because objectively the arguments are sound, but it's when the emotional into a bigger deal where you can't actually deal with any of these problems, which I know is a very long-winded way of coming back round to the subject on immigration and
lost you there.
I think we keep losing Charlie temporarily.
Yeah, it sounds like he's got a bit of a problem there with the Wi-Fi, but totally agree with Charlie there and what he's saying. He's spot on there, and with regards to the statistically, you can say that the majority of pedophiles in the UK are white males, but but if you go by the scale of the population, is what, like 80% is white British, so obviously that you'd expect that to be, and many other crimes as well. But then when you're talking, what he was just talking there, predominantly Muslim Pakistani grooming gangs, for example, according to the Office of National Statistics in 2015, when they released the census, they said that the population was something like 7% Muslim. So if we say not all of them are paedophiles, but we're generous say 0.1% are committing these crimes, but that's the problems we're having now. On that scale, what will it be like when the population is 15%, 30%?
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, look, facts. What's the saying? Feelings don't hurt against facts. The facts are that the Muslim community make up, well, you said 7%. I thought it was around 5%. But let's say 7%. Let's say 3.5 male, 3.5% female. So 3.5% of the male Muslim Pakistani population are in some areas the cause for 80% of the grooming gang. So, but we'll leave that there because I don't want to touch too much into that.
No, leave that
we've
alone.
sort of gone around about. So yeah, we'll leave that there, and then we can hopefully get Charlie back on, or Martin to speak about the subject we spoke about so far. Hopefully.
Yeah, looks like Martin's back on now. Hopefully.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear loud and clear, Martin?
Hello.
I was screaming these last subjects, trying to get your attention, but I'm here now. So do not worry. No need to identify with me. I just want to go back a bit, actually. We're not in Scotland, are we? Care for Calais. What do you think? Domestic terrorists or not? These people up in Liverpool aiding and abetting the invasion, and then stirring up trouble by, as you quite rightly said, Nick, about the far right, these labels being branded. But now they are actually organising counter-protests with our favourite friends, Stand Up to Racism. It's funded by George Soros. God. Serious question, guys. Do you think that Care for Calais should be labelled a domestic terrorist organisation?
They're definitely up there, aren't they? Really? I mean, like you said, they are aiding and abetting criminals, and God knows who else are coming over. And and anyone who has genuine concerns about it, they're labelling them far right. So, whilst labels are flying around, why not?
Typical, isn't it?
Exactly, but I think that was a tinderbox being lit now, and I think from what we've seen in Liverpool, that's going to start erupting all over the place. There's another protest this weekend, I think, down in Newquay, and they're starting to pop up everywhere. People really had enough now. It's we've seen what's happening in Ireland, where it's just all been shoved under the carpet, and you've got these mums out in the push chairs and things, and they're the ones being branded far right. It's an absolute disgrace. When the bottom line is our kids are being attacked now. This has gone far too long. So, I hope the pressure keeps up now. We see more of this, people peacefully protesting, I'll say. Because we don't want any trouble, because that'll just give them an excuse then to start perhaps getting really tough, martial law kind of tough if things get out of control.
No, you're right, Martin. And I think, listen, we don't want no violence. We're not here to advocate violence and encourage it, but we are here to be realistic and talk about realism. And I think there will be more and more and more of this, because we're not being listened to as a public, as a democratic society. Doesn't matter what we say, the councils and local government and the government will do whatever they want. So I think we will see more of this until we get a proper grip on illegal immigrants, and we get a proper grip on the piss take that is the asylum seeking system. So we are going to see more of this, and you can throw every label you want at us. It's not going to stop. That doesn't work anymore.
The trouble is, Nick, I think was my touched on there, about peaceful. I think eventually it will turn nasty, because we see these groups turn up, and they're antagonizers. And they look for violent situations. If you look at what the police did in Liverpool, the police left a police van in the middle of a hostile and an emotional crowd. It's obvious what's going to happen to the police van if you leave it unattended amongst a few hundred people who are,
of course.
They did it deliberately. And what happened? The van got vandalized and it got set on fire. And then that falls into their narrative of far right. But eventually, as we know, the labels don't mean anything. And when people do turn to violence, all their labels and all their identifying and all their, nice sounding ideas and blah, 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 isn't going to, I choose my words carefully. But when it comes to violence, should we say, there will only be one winner.
Well, that's it. And I just want to say as well, though, what we're seeing, there's a protest, I think in Rotherham, Rochdale or something on Saturday, and already Care for Calais are organising a counter protest, and they are arranging transport from Sheffield to get there. Where the hell are they getting this money from for all this? They're clearly being paid to do this, and it's just going to be rental mob again. They're just going to bus people in there, and the people that they bus in don't live in the area. They don't see the problems that the locals there will see with their children being set up to be abused. It will turn nasty, and of course you'll get your Antifa people there with their face mask coverings on. They're all paid. We know that. And like you said, the police will probably antagonise them again, like they did parking that van in there. It's just such all a setup. So, and then of course all you'll see on the BBC is the far right and all this rubbish. But it's gone beyond that now. Decent people fed up with it.
I totally agree with you there on Martin and everything you said. As we covered earlier, it's disgusting what's going on with that. I just want to move on to the next topic, which is Nicola Sturgeon resigning. Now she's promised, she'll to resign again. What have you made? What? She's promised another resignation at the end of the year. What do you guys make of it? Being said, all that's happened and all that's gone on. What do you guys make of the situation? Nick, let us know what you think, and Martin and Charlie.
Charlie, do you want to come in as Charlie, since he sort of
he disappeared there?
I'm back. I think that the whole thing with Scotland and Nicola Sturgeon is that she tried to use this situation with the gender recognition stuff, the bill she tried to put forward, as a way of fast tracking the second Scottish independence referendum. The reason why I say that is because I think she thought she'd get so much support for saying that a man can be a woman and a woman can be a man just by flipping a coin or clicking their fingers.
Yes, I agree, definitely.
That when some real conservatism actually come through for a change, the UK government said, no, we're not going to let this one go. You guys can stick that one right where the sun don't shine. And I think that she was hoping that because of Westminster interference, which was predictable, it was always going to happen, that she could twist that into, see, the English are trying to stop us from doing our own thing. They're interfering in our affairs. This is why we need to leave the Union. But she didn't get the public support that she wanted. And I think that's why she's had to go. I know she won't admit that she's been effectively kicked out of her own job by her own making. I mean, she could just identify as the First Minister after all this. That's the logic, right? And I was on Talk TV a couple of weeks ago, and I said on one of the shows there that, I could go to Scotland and I could identify as being a black woman. And if you don't like it, you're racist, you're sexist, and you're transphobic.
Here, yes.
Yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that's the holy trifecta of you can't touch me. And if we allowed Scotland to do that, it will trickle down to England. I mean, we've already got the Church of England acting crazy, talking about gender-neutral God. And even as an atheist, I find that incredibly insulting. I don't believe in anything at all, but I find that to be so ridiculous and so far beyond the pale that if you allow that to happen, what next? What's next?
Yeah, that's the insanity of it all, isn't it? That's the insanity of it all. But I mean, we should just take this moment to appreciate what a glorious day it is to get rid of her. She's done nothing but cause division over the last few years, trying to not only break up the Union, but get Scotland back into the European Union. That was the insanity of that as well. She wants to have her own freedom, but then she wants to be shackled to the EU. That's how crazy this woman is. And I think her stepping down today, and I think you're quite right with your assessment of why she's done that. I think we should, it's a glorious day, a good day for this country, and I say good riddance to her.
Yeah,
I think we should probably rebuild Hadrian's Wall, just in case, because I can pretty much guarantee that she's going to be followed by someone else more nutty. It's a guarantee. I've seen clips of her on the television where someone 100%. Sitting right behind her has got pink hair or green hair or something like that. And I thought, you'd never get away with that in the Houses of Parliament. But in Scotland, you can turn up with green hair. Okay. Scotland is failing. And, I will lay the first brick in that wall.
Yeah, game on, mate. I'll be with you. I've done a bit of bricklaying in my time. I'll be more than happy to get involved. I think you're right. Whoever's going to follow her is probably going to be much, much worse than she is.
Yeah, I think that the front runner is that Hamza Youssef, isn't it? Or the two guys. Hamza Youssef is one of them, and another guy that's the front runner.
Oh, lovely! Oh, Mr. Hamza Youssef. Oh, Mr. Everything's White. Remember that outpour he had? I did a little video back to him, didn't I? If you remember that, Nick.
Yeah, no, I do. Fair play, yeah.
Unbelievable. Right, next topic, guys. What we saying about Jeremy Corbyn? So apparently he's been dropped now from standing as a Labour Party candidate in his constituency. What do you make of that?
I've not seen too much of this. I briefly see that Keir Starmer has barred him. If I'm right in thinking, Keir Starmer has barred him from standing.
That's correct.
But I haven't read too much more. I'm just trying to think: is I don't know. I'll pass this to Charlie or Martin or the listeners because I don't know too much about it.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting old now anyway, isn't he, Jeremy Corbyn? It's probably time he stepped down anyway. But it just goes to show how ruthless the Labour Party are to treat him like that. You know, because I mean, I know we've had a joke about him over the years, but I think probably deep down he's got a good heart. And that's probably why he doesn't fit in the modern Labour Party, perhaps. So they've treated him pretty badly, I think. But it's just Labour's attempt to try and end this anti-Semitism row that's just been banging on for so long now, isn't it? You know, but the facts are that the Labour Party are only second to the BNP for investigations to the human rights watchdog. You know,
Wow.
And these are the people that have got the cheek to be calling us racists and all the rest of it. It's shocking, really.
That's right, Martin. Yeah, there was in 2019 there was 2 parties under investigation by an equalities watchdog. One was the BNP and the other was the Labour Party. That speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and this is just a pathetic attempt, really, to try and to move themselves on from all that. But you know, as we all know, Labour are the party of hate and division. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, totally agree. A bunch of dirty scumbags, a lot of them.
So if Charlie wants to come onto this subject, can we talk about the pay rise briefly for MPs whilst we're on about MPs and government? But if Charlie wants to come on this, that'd be perfect.
Well, I was out with someone yesterday for lunch, a young lady who used to work for the Labour Party, and she thinks that the Labour Party are corrupt from top to bottom. She actually had a lot of nice things to say about Jeremy Corbyn in the sense of that he is extremely honest. Now, I don't know what you guys think of that assessment, but she worked with him and she's worked with Keir Starmer, and she thinks that Keir Starmer is, despite outward appearances as being this boring dullard, she seems to think that he's incredibly dangerous. Now, I won't name her, the girl, because you'll probably know who she is, and I don't think that she wants our association to be that public at the moment, because she's got a few things going on with them. But what I would say is that out of all the Labour leaders over the years, my favourite, and this could be a downward tick on my assessment of people, but my favourite was always Tony Blair, right up until all the wars. But after him, I didn't mind Jeremy Corbyn. I have to be honest. I didn't think he was that bad of an egg. Didn't agree with him politically, but I did think that he had his heart in the right place. And I think as I've gotten older, I look at some of his old speeches and some of the things that I've heard him say with more nuance and more understanding of, you know, sometimes disagreeing with the left doesn't make the left bad. And maybe I'm going soft, but that's my viewpoint on Jeremy Corbyn in general. I think the Labour Party are very ungrateful to not stand him with a rose the next general election, but I don't think they'll beat him anyway. So he can stand as an independent and he will win because he's essentially Mr. Islington. So they've got no chance of beating him regardless.
Yeah. Do you know what? Some people have got their heart in the right place, as you said, but unfortunately their brain isn't, and that's where it becomes a problem. Your heart can be in the right place, but your brain isn't. And I think with Jeremy Corbyn, I think that's been the case. But no, yeah.
Spot on, and I agree with Charlie's points there, and you know, and one of the points there as well. As much as I do disagree, you know, with socialists in general, one of the things that I do agree with Jeremy Corbyn, you know, speaking about, you know, some of his speeches previously was to do with the Iraq War. You know, I was dead against that from day one, and I agreed with him 100%. You know, we shouldn't have been interfering. And if you look at the, you know, the vacuum it's caused with, you know, refugees and whatnot from then, this destabilised the Middle East, didn't it? From then on, it was like a domino effect. So yeah, I totally agree with him on that.
was just going to
100%.
mention as well. I'd much rather have Jeremy Corbyn in charge of the Labour Party than going back to Keir Starmer, because as I believe those comments about Keir Starmer. He's not as stupid as he looks. He's in the Trilateral Commission, and don't forget, he's also a part of the World Economic Forum. Every time this organisation pops up from somewhere, like the turd that won't flush, he's it doesn't matter who wins the next general election. Klaus Schwab's going to win again, and he's got Keir Starmer's openly admitted he'd rather be in Davos and Westminster. So whatever way we look at it, we're in big, big trouble. So I would have Jeremy Corbyn back any day over him.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the fighting. I think it's great. You've got the far left and extreme far left fighting each other, destroying the party. Soon they'll branch off and there'll be a new branch of the Bolsheviks starting again. Right, guys. Well, whilst we're moving on, next topic. I know Nick, you wanted to touch on this. Central bank digital currencies. We spoke about it, previously. Lots of people were speaking about this for donkey's years and always been called conspiracy theories, and now it looks like it's finally happening. We see Rishi Sunak, when he was Chancellor, announced Bitcoin, and looks like things are moving forward. So what do you make of this one, guys?
Yeah, it's I'll be brief, because I know I wanted Charlie on to talk about this. It's like I said, it's another thing, like I said, David, that we warned about, and we were called loony conspiracy theorists. And then just the other week, the Bank of England said that they want to trial this digital pound at the end of the decade, I think. Andrew Bailey, the Bank of England governor, quoted saying, "The world is changing around us and the way we pay for things becomes more digitalized. So therefore, the case for a digital pound continues to grow." Fuck off. Oh, sorry, frick off. We all know we all know the dangers of a cashless society, right? So this cannot happen and should not happen. But yeah. So what do you think, Charlie and Martin and listeners?
My personal view on CBDCs is they remove all anonymity on spending. Now, some people will make the argument the same way they do about surveillance, that if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to fear. I have a completely different approach to that. I think that we should have our own privacy and the autonomy to do what we like within the law without being spied upon. With CBDCs, and this is what I think that they will be used for, they will connect you to your national insurance number. They'll be connected to that. I believe that you'll have all of your transactions monitored so that you can be measured upon your carbon footprint, and you'll be told that you have an allowance on what you can spend on certain meat products, how much fuel you can put in your car. Do you think you should really be spending so much time watching television today? We might cut your Netflix account off for half an hour. That might sound extreme, but when you look at the people that are involved in the formation of the CBDCs, it's not actually that far of a reach. When you look at China and the social credit system they have, and you look next door to India, they have a very similar system in India, but it's maintained by a company called Infosys. Do you guys know who owns Infosys?
No,
Does Rishi Sunak have a hand in it somewhere?
Rishi Sunak's father-in-law.
So
when people say, "Oh, Rishi Sunak, he seems like a nice guy," Rishi Sunak, and I watched his fluff piece with Piers Morgan the other week as well, which I commented on quite extensively, but it was essentially a fluff piece. It wasn't a very difficult interview to get through. If you're worth £750 million, I think that's what he's estimated to be worth, him and his wife, why would you want a job for 180 grand a year?
Exactly.
If I had 10% of his wealth, if I had 75 million, you guys would never hear from me again. Believe that. My Twitter account would be deleted. I'll be on an island somewhere with cocktails and beautiful women, and I would not be talking about politics ever again. But when you look at the connection to his father-in-law, that company that controls the Indian version of the Chinese social credit score system, you do have to wonder, don't you?
Oh yes,
yes, absolutely.
Oh, yes.
And again, though, who's he connected with? The World Economic Forum. The other thing as well, though, with this digital currency, which is really concerning, is the fact that they could just switch it on and off as they like you mentioned with the Netflix. Now, we've seen in Canada, Justin Trudeau blocking all the bank accounts of those truckers to try and stop them processing. They could do that, or they could program the money. So if there's another lockdown, another climate lockdown, then if you travel outside a 5-mile radius, they could program it so you can't use your digital currency. It's basically a digital prison, and it's all about control, just like the smart cities they're trying to impose. It's a very bad idea.
About the cars.
Exactly that. I mean, there's not, when it comes to electric cars, there isn't enough resources for everyone to have electric cars. It's a fallacy.
But furthermore,
it's all about control.
One of my friends recently bought a Tesla, and he was showing it off to me. And one thing I realised is that in the middle of the Tesla, there's a massive screen. It basically functions like a big iPad. And I said, do you have to sign into this and connect to it and yada, yada, yada? He said, yes. So Tesla know where I am all the time. And I said to him when he got the car, I said, do you think they can turn it off remotely? Oh, no, they'd never do that, never do that. I said, really? You don't think so? You can't stop a combustion engine. But if you're connected all the time to a system which could be legislated upon to say, do you know what? We didn't like what David posted on Twitter today.
Yep.
Let's switch his car off. Let's make him walk to the shops instead.
That's it.
And again, it sounds far-fetched and it sounds extreme. But if this doesn't happen, I will eat my socks.
I totally agree with you there, Charlie. I think it's what it is. It's a tool for the control. That's what it's all about. Literally, as you said, they can turn off your car, and choose what you can and can't buy. As you were saying, you might have like carbon credits. So you've driven to work today. Now you can't buy steak for dinner tonight. You can see it all coming. It's all about control. What I want to ask you, Charlie, is what are your thoughts on the likes of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other alternative digital currencies, as you might call them? What were your thoughts on like Bitcoin, for example?
I've got a lot of friends who use Bitcoin, but I don't see it as practical. I mean, I've dabbled in those currencies just to check them out because I had a few of my own coins lying around, so to speak. I thought I'll just mess around and see what it's on. And do I think it will catch on? I think it's extremely niche. You try explaining Bitcoin with its wallet codes and logins and passwords, and you've got to have a key here and a plug-in there. I mean, I found it confusing, and I'm technically inclined. Sorry, technologically inclined, I should say. I found it quite difficult to kind of get involved in. Give that to an old person or someone who's older than us, because I think looking at the state of our boat races, we're probably all around the same age. Probably around in the 30s, right? That's safe to assume. So if I find it a little bit difficult, because I was intrigued by NFTs, I was curious about NFTs because I thought, really, people are going to spend thousands on a digital JPEG for what? For what purpose? I've got no idea. But I got involved really low end just to kind of investigate and see what it was all about. Personally, I think it's a waste of time. But there could be some virtue to it. I'm not entirely sure, but Bitcoin will be another one of those things where the government will say, too much freedom, too much power there. We're going to have to legalize the centralization of it. So then you'll have Bitcoin, and did you see the job advertisement for for someone to head up the central banking digital currency at the Treasury? Did you see that for that last week?
No.
Yeah. Well, they're talking about rolling out this by 2025, aren't they? They're accelerating it now.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, it's all the countries are pretty much doing this, but it seems like the United States, though, are still playing catch up because they've got a big case over it at the moment to do with legislation of cryptocurrencies. A company called Ripple is in battle with the SEC over there. So they're waiting for clarity on the whole crypto industry before they can even move forward. But the one good thing about those cryptocurrencies is they are decentralized. So that's why these governments don't want them coming in, because obviously they won't have the control then to be able to stop switching them on and off as they please. So I don't know. My mind's not made up really on it too much, but I do think they will probably have a part to play.
A lot of the major nations that are involved. I mean, I've just tried to send you something, David, to put in the space. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but if you haven't, it's not that big a deal. I can send this to you guys privately on a DM. But of the big nations looking at CBDCs, Canada is in a pilot stage. No, sorry, not a pilot stage. They're in development. America's in research. We're in research. France, Spain, Italy, Germany, they're in development. Russia is in pilot stage. China is in pilot stage. Kazakhstan's in pilot stage. Saudi Arabia is in pilot stage. So the people that are kind of bringing this in now as a pilot, they seem to be, not very friendly towards us. So that's one concern.
Very interesting.
Then, forgive me, this is my... no, that's Nigeria. Right, so Nigeria have already launched a CBDC. They're the first country in the world to launch one. So that's interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. First I've heard of that. I'll look that up. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
I think Charlie, if I'm right in thinking, Nigeria has had a reduction in what you can draw out in cash to begin with.
That would be true, yeah.
Yeah. So they're heading that way, definitely.
Surprised at Nigeria though. That's astonishing, isn't it? It's not the sort of country you think be the first to roll it out.
Put the whole thing on hold. So they're not looking to explore it. Not many major countries, but Argentina, Egypt, Finland, and North Korea randomly. They're not looking to kind of invoke a CBDC. But it's interesting, it seems to be that the Northern Hemisphere really is focused on the CBDC rollout. And like I said, with China, Russia already pushing, even Ukraine have kind of piloted this, which is surreal to me.
Yeah, a country at war. It's astonishing, isn't it?
Yeah, nothing surprised me about Ukraine at the moment.
Maybe that's why Zelensky makes so many foreign trips. He's trying to get his big wallet out.
Yeah, you know that. What was that company that went under? There was lots of transactions between Ukraine and US.
FTX,
I know the story, just not the name.
FTX, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, it just goes to show you, doesn't it? But I think it's an eye opener, and I think people need to be paying attention to what's going on, as you were saying there, Charlie. The possibilities of what the government could do control-wise is quite concerning. So that's why I was asking about what you thought about cryptos, and I think I'll stick with buying gold and silver, to be honest.
Yeah, once it's in, there's no way out. I mean, I was at an event last year with Majid Nawaz, and he gave this great speech about how dangerous he thought it was, and the one thing that I took away from that was how once it's there, and it's programmable and it's controllable from some bod somewhere that you don't know and can't call on the phone, it's over. And it's stark, but that's real. I can, if I've got £10 in my pocket, I've got £10 in my pocket. This is why, to be awkward and to make a point, if I go to somewhere where there's a bar or a restaurant or whatever, I will always try to encourage paying with cash. And they will say, "Oh no, sorry, we don't take cash." And I say, "Why not?" "Oh, since COVID." I'm like, right, since COVID, what though? COVID's over. They're like, "Yeah, but we've not gone back." "Yeah, but why not?" "Well, because it's easier for us." And I thought, this is how stupid it is. I mean, sure, it is convenient, but when you give someone a tap of your card or your phone, they're not getting £10. They're losing money on that because they have to pay transaction fees.
The bank takes some, yeah.
Yeah, someone's processing that. And then naturally, someone knows that they've taken money for one. So, HMRC are very happy. And someone also knows that where you are. So if I tap my card in a pub in London at 8 o'clock on a Thursday night, someone knows somewhere that I'm at a pub.
Yeah, you're definitely right. This is why we need to keep no cash, no custom. If you don't accept cash, we won't spend in your shops. This is why I'm happy with my barbers and other establishments around the country telling people, by the way, at the end of the month we made £4,000, but we had to pay the bank £400 or whatever it is because of people using contactless cards and cards.
Yeah.
This is why cash is important. Cash is
Cash
good.
is king. Cash is king. Cash is king.
But don't be sexist. It's king and queen. All right. So it's king. But no, look. Let's not joke around. Cash is good for the homeless. Cash is good for the elderly. Cash is good for the casual labour. Cash is good, as Charlie rightly said, for privacy. Cash is good for not being controlled, as Martin said earlier, where Canada held the payments from GoFundMe for the Canadian truckers because it didn't suit their agenda. So cash is king and queen. Cash is important. No cash, no custom. And that's what it should be. And I'm glad, as I said, for my barbers and other establishments up and down the country saying and warning people, look, when you pay us by your card, we have to pay the bank a certain amount of charge. So we're not making all the money we should be. So keep cash alive.
Yep, couldn't agree more, mate. Couldn't agree more. So my local pub, they don't take cash anymore. It's card only. So I walk a bit further to another pub now.
Good.
I use my card there as well. Don't get me wrong, cash, but just for the purpose, they don't take cash anymore. I boycott them. But did you notice this, right? When I lived in Australia, I noticed it in Australia and noticed here as well. If you go to any Chinese restaurants or shops, like whether it's whether they even like for the ladies to go get their nails done, it's usually cash only. I go to my takeaway shop, cash only. They do not take card. It's like they're ahead of the game. They know what's going on.
That's it. They're in the know, mate. They know, and we need to force this message out. No cash, no custom. Keep cash alive. Cash is good for various things, for my personal reasons and for other people's personal reasons. So keep cash alive.
Right, guys. I think we better call it there. Thanks again, Charlie, for your time. Thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
That was a pleasure.
Nice one.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Martin. And thank you to all the listeners. We'll get this uploaded on YouTube. Be up by tomorrow. We'll have a link out.
Cheers, everyone. Thanks, everyone. Cheers, Charlie. Thank you, Martin. Cheers, David. Cheers, listeners. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.